48-year-old postal worker Octavia Redmond was in front of a home near 121st and Harvard when a man walked up to her and shot her. She died at the hospital.
What kind of person guns down a mail carrier in broad daylight? Why would a teenager fire 15 shots into a woman who was just doing her job? And how did months of warnings about postal workers being hunted go completely ignored until it was too late? Let me tell you something. This story will have you heated.
This morning, Chicago police have released surveillance video of a person of interest in the deadly shooting of a postal worker.
The shooting happened last month in the West Pullman neighborhood.
Welcome to Unheard Cries TV. Before we get into it, hit that like button and subscribe. Drop a comment and tell me, have you ever seen mail carriers or delivery drivers targeted where you live? What city you watching from? I want to hear from you. This is the story of Octavia Redmond, a wife, a mother, a grandmother, a woman who was murdered while delivering your mail. July 19th, 2024, West Pullman neighborhood on Chicago's South Side. It's a regular Friday morning. Sun's out, older folks sitting on porches, kids playing on the sidewalk. The white USPS mail truck parked on South Harvard Avenue, right where it always is around this time. Everything's normal, everything's peaceful. Then gunfire explodes through the street. 10 to 15 shots, rapid succession. Neighbors hit the ground. Some run to windows trying to figure out where the shot's coming from. When the smoke clears, a woman's lying next to her mail truck. Multiple gunshot wounds to the neck, chest, and hip. Blood everywhere. A white Dodge Durango speeding away from the scene. The woman on the ground is 48-year-old Octavia Redmond, USPS letter carrier. And everybody on this block knows her. She's the one who delivers their mail every single day with a smile. She's the one they call the community's mother. Now she's dying right in front of the home she was serving. Paramedics rush her to the hospital, but it's too late. Octavia Redmond is pronounced dead. So who would do this, and why?
My heart is shattered because it was a nice lady. I'm looking for my morning smile or my afternoon smile. Like now, I got to adjust to somebody else.
Now, before we get into how Octavia died, we need to talk about who she was. Octavia wasn't some random postal worker. She was a 48-year-old Chicago resident who'd been walking the same routes for 15 years. Based out of the Roseland Post Office on the city's far south side. People didn't just know her, they loved her. Called her the bubbly mail carrier lady. Some called her the community's mother. She wasn't just dropping off packages. She was checking on elderly neighbors, waving at kids, making small talk. One neighbor said it straight. She was a nice lady. She never bothered nobody. We all knew her around here. Another resident put it like this. My heart is shattered because it was a nice lady. I'm looking for my morning smile or my afternoon smile. Now I have to adjust to somebody else. That's the kind of person Octavia was. Her presence mattered. At home, she was everything. Married to Demetrius Redmond, who also worked for the Postal Service. They met on the job and built a whole life together. She was a mother of 3, a grandmother. Her family called her the queen of our family. After her death, Demetrius spoke publicly about his grief. He said, Octavia is the love of my life, and I don't want to be in a world that she is not a part of. Girl, those words hit hard because they showed just how much she meant to the people closest to her. Octavia loved her job. It wasn't just a paycheck. It gave her the ability to provide for her 3 kids, to travel outside the country, to build a stable life. She took pride in what she did. Her co-workers remembered her not just as reliable, but as someone who brought warmth to the workplace. She was known for her cooking. People joked that if you tasted one of her dishes, you'd fall in love with it on the spot. She was funny. She was kind. She was intelligent. She had a smile that could brighten even the worst day. And here's the most important thing to understand. Octavia Redmond was not involved in crime. She wasn't caught up in feuds or drama. She didn't have enemies. By every account, she was a quiet, hardworking woman, deeply woven into the daily life of her community. She woke up early, sorted mail, drove out to West Pullman, walked block by block doing a job most people take for granted. She did it with a smile. She did it for 15 years. Understanding who Octavia was makes what happened next feel even more senseless. But listen, Octavia's death didn't come out of nowhere. For years, Postal workers across the country have been sounding the alarm. Since 2020, there have been more than 2,000 attacks on postal employees nationwide. In the Chicago district alone, over 150 attacks reported since 2022. Several postal workers around the country had already been killed. Criminals were targeting mail carriers for arrow keys, special keys that open multi-unit mailboxes. They were after cash, checks, packages. Letter carriers became easy targets because their routes were predictable and they worked alone. Make it make sense. June 28, 2024. Just 3 weeks before Octavia was killed, another Chicago mail carrier was robbed in broad daylight. Video from that day shows a woman walking up to the carrier and pulling a weapon from her jacket. The carrier backs away, terrified. The woman takes what she wants and walks off. Whole thing happens in seconds. Elise Foster, president of the National Association of Letter Carriers, Branch 11, had been warning anyone who would listen. She spoke to local police, elected officials, postal leadership, told them carriers in Chicago were under attack, mail trucks being broken into, carriers held at gunpoint. And up to that point, nobody in Chicago had been killed on duty, but workers felt it was only a matter of time. In one emotional statement, Foster said,
"At this point, my letter carriers are scared to deliver mail. And if they scared to deliver mail, they cannot be forced to go out to deliver mail because they want to get home to their families. And I want them to return to their families. I want everybody to hear this. I'm tired of talking. Something needs to be done."
3 weeks after that armed robbery, those fears became reality on a quiet block on South Harvard Avenue. Friday morning, July 19, 2024. Time, 11:38 a.m. Octavia Redmond is working her regular route in the 12,100 block of South Harvard Avenue in West Pullman. This is a neighborhood where elderly residents sit on porches and everybody knows each other, the kind of place where people still wave at the mail carrier. Octavia's parked her USPS truck and she's walking door to door, delivering mail like she does every day. Neighbors see her, they recognize her. This is routine, this is safe, this is ordinary. Then a white Dodge Durango appears. Witnesses later said they saw the vehicle cruising slowly toward Octavia's mail truck. According to prosecutors, the person inside was dressed in all black. He gets out of the Durango and walks straight toward her. What happens next is fast and brutal. The suspect demands that Octavia hand over the mail, but he doesn't wait for an answer. Almost immediately, he opens fire. 10 to 15 shots, rapid succession. The sound echoes through the block. Octavia's hit multiple times, once in the neck, several times in the chest, at least once in the hip. She collapses near her truck. The shooter runs back to the Durango, gets in, and speeds away westbound from Harvard Avenue. Inside their homes, neighbors heard the gunfire. One person counted about 9 shots. When they looked outside, they saw something they never thought they'd see. Their mail carrier, the woman they greeted every day, lying on the ground in a pool of blood. 911 calls start flooding in. Operators can hear the panic in people's voices. Within minutes, paramedics arrive on scene. They work quickly to stabilize Octavia and rush her to Advocate Christ Medical Center in Oak Lawn. But despite their efforts, she's pronounced dead at the hospital. Back on South Harvard Avenue, the streets filled with police cars, crime scene tape, and neighbors standing in shock. One woman told reporters, "My heart is shattered because it was a nice lady. I'm looking for my morning smile or my afternoon smile. Now I have to adjust to somebody else." The USPS truck sits idle, surrounded by yellow tape. Mail's still inside. Octavia's route is unfinished. At this point, nobody knows why this happened. Was it about checks in the mail? Was the shooter after arrow keys? Was this part of the larger pattern of attacks on postal workers? Nobody has answers. All anyone knows is that a beloved mail carrier has been executed in broad daylight while doing her job. The investigation begins immediately, and the first major break comes the very next day, July 20th, 2024. Chicago police find a white Dodge Durango in a field in the 8900 block of South Holland Road in West Chatham. The vehicle's abandoned and completely torched. Whoever left it there wanted to destroy any evidence inside. But burning a car doesn't erase everything, Because Octavia was a federal employee killed on duty, this wasn't just a local case. The Chicago Police Department, the U.S. Postal Inspection Service, and later the U.S. Marshals Great Lakes Regional Fugitive Task Force all joined the investigation. Detectives start pulling video from street cameras and home security systems all over the South Side. What they find is crucial. One video shows a suspect getting into a stolen white Dodge Durango on South Campbell Avenue before the shooting. Another clip captures someone getting out of the Durango near 121st and Harvard, disappearing off camera in the direction where Octavia was working, then running back to the vehicle moments later. The Durango then speeds away, but investigators don't stop there. They dig deeper. According to prosecutors, the suspect's cell phone was active before and during the murder. Messages were being sent about Octavia's route and her location. Someone was tracking her movements. Oh, so now we're coordinating murders through text messages? Let me tell you something, this gets worse. The gun used in the shooting was also traced. It had already been linked to a separate battery case in the city. On top of that, a witness came forward and told police that the suspect came to their home right after the shooting to change his shoes. All of these details start forming a clear picture of what happened and who was responsible. Meanwhile, the U.S. Postal Inspection Service announces a reward of up to $250,000 for information leading to an arrest and conviction. Ruth Mendonça, inspector in charge of the Chicago division, releases a public statement. She calls Octavia's death senseless violence and says, "When members of our postal family are targeted, postal inspectors will not rest until justice is delivered." The case gets national attention. People across the country are asking the same question. Why would someone kill a mail carrier? On social media, rumors start spreading. Some people claim the shooting was about checks, specifically Social Security and benefit checks that criminals were targeting. That theory fits with the larger pattern of attacks on postal workers. But here's the truth. Police did not publicly confirm a motive. To this day, the reason behind Octavia's murder has not been officially announced. What investigators do have is evidence. Lots of it. The stolen vehicle, the cell phone messages tracking her route, the gun linked to another crime, the witness saying he changed his shoes after the shooting, video footage showing the suspect's movements. Then comes the tip. Police receive an anonymous call naming a suspect. When detectives combine that tip with the video footage, phone records, and witness statements, they're able to identify the person they believe pulled the trigger. And the identity of that person shocks everyone. The suspect is a 15-year-old boy, girl, a child. After months of investigation, Chicago police and the U.S. Marshals Great Lakes Regional Fugitive Task Force finally tracked down their suspect. On a Monday in late October 2024, they arrest him in the 800 block of Walford Road in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, more than 250 miles away from Chicago. He's later brought back to the city to face charges. The suspect, a 15-year-old boy. Because he's a juvenile, the media doesn't publish his name. But the charge against him is serious. One felony count of first-degree murder in the death of Octavia Redmond. When the case goes to court, more details come out. And they paint a troubling picture. At the time of the shooting, the teen was already on juvenile release. He'd been charged with attempted burglary back in February. A warrant had been issued for him in May because authorities couldn't find him. He had disappeared. So what? The system just let him roam free? During one of the early court hearings, the teen's father appears by video. The judge asks him about his son's behavior. The father's response is blunt. He just doesn't stay put. At another point in the hearing, the teen starts crying. The judge notices and asks him why. The boy doesn't answer. He just sits there, silent. The judge orders him to remain in custody. More hearings are scheduled. But even with all the evidence, the stolen car, the phone messages about Octavia's route, the gun linked to another crime, the witness saying he changed his shoes after the shooting, there's still one huge missing piece: the motive. Police and prosecutors have not publicly said why this happened. They haven't explained what drove a 15-year-old to gun down a mail carrier in broad daylight. Investigators also said they're still looking for other people of interest, which suggests the teen may not have acted alone. The community keeps asking the same question over and over: why her? What did she do? One longtime customer of the Roseland Post Office said it best.
This has been my post office for 48 years. When children commit adult crimes, then that's a whole different story, and it involves all of us because we are parents.
And that's the tension at the heart of this case. On one side, you have Octavia Redmond, a 48-year-old wife, mother, and grandmother who was murdered in front of her mail truck while doing her job. A woman who smiled at neighbors every day. A woman who never hurt anyone. On the other side, you have a 15-year-old boy sitting in court, crying, already in the system for previous crimes, now facing a murder charge. This doesn't excuse what happened. Nothing can, but it does raise hard questions. How does a teenager end up firing 10 to 15 shots into a working woman who was just delivering mail? What went wrong in his life that led to this moment? Those are questions the courts will try to answer. But the legal process moves slowly. While the courts move slowly toward an answer on legal guilt, there's another question that can't wait. What does this say about how we protect or fail to protect the people who keep our cities running? Octavia's death left a hole that could never be filled. Her husband, Demetrius Redmond, set up a fundraiser to help cover funeral expenses. In the description, he called Octavia the queen of our family. He told reporters, "I don't want to be in a world that she is not a part of." The Redmond family attended court hearings but declined to speak publicly. They were consumed with grief. All they could do was watch as the legal system tried to make sense of what happened. At the Roseland Post Office, Octavia's co-workers were devastated. Union leaders called her "our sister" and remembered her as a great co-worker who brought warmth to the workplace. Elise Foster, president of the National Association of Letter Carriers Branch 11, spoke out again. This time her words were filled with anger and frustration. She said, "This should not have happened today. We are under attack here in Chicago." The union brought in grief counselors and support teams to help the carriers at Roseland cope with the loss. But no amount of counseling could bring Octavia back. Liz Rivas, president of the Illinois State Association of Letter Carriers, put the situation into perspective.
Since 2020, there's been over 2,000 attacks on Postal employees. Over 150 since 2022 in the Chicago district alone, resulting in the death of Octavia Redmond, Sister Redmond, and about 4 other people across the country.
Octavia was not the first. And without change, she won't be the last. That's why union leaders and community advocates started pushing harder for the Postal Police Reform Act. This proposed law would allow postal police officers to accompany mail carriers on their routes, not just guard facilities and parking lots. Right now, postal police are mostly assigned to protect buildings, but carriers are out on the streets, alone, vulnerable. Unions argue that Octavia's death is proof that postal police officers need to be back on the street in high-risk areas. They say if officers had been patrolling routes, this might never have happened. But nearly a year after Octavia's murder, the bill still hasn't received a vote. Make it make sense. On a national day of action, postal workers rallied outside the Roseland Post Office where Octavia worked. They held signs. They gave speeches. They demanded more protection. One union leader said,
"This has to stop. This cannot be the norm. Postal workers should be able to come to work and go home like they came. You should not have to come to work looking over your shoulder. You should not have to come to work in fear if you're going to get back to your loved ones. This should not have happened."
Because it's the reality for the thousands of mail carriers across the country. Every day they go out on their routes not knowing if they'll be robbed, threatened, or worse. In West Pullman, residents said losing Octavia felt like losing one of their own. The daily ritual of seeing her mail truck, her wave, her smile, it was all gone. So what can actually be done? First, high-risk routes need visible protection. If there's a pattern of robberies or attacks in certain neighborhoods, law enforcement or postal police should be present. Carriers shouldn't have to work alone in areas where they're being targeted. Second, crime data should be used to adjust routes, times, and staffing. If a neighborhood is seeing a spike in violence, postal management needs to respond. That might mean changing delivery schedules, adding security, or pairing carriers together. Third, policy reform matters. The Postal Police Reform Act is a perfect example. Right now, postal police are mostly stuck guarding buildings. This proposed law would let them patrol routes and protect carriers where they actually work. If you care about this issue, you can contact your representatives and tell them to support it. Fourth, communities need to step up. Treat mail carriers and delivery drivers like part of your neighborhood family. If you see suspicious activity near their trucks, report it. If a carrier looks like they're in danger, don't just watch. Help. Fifth, we need to talk about the suspect. He's 15 years old. He was already on release for attempted burglary when this happened. That tells us the system failed long before he pulled the trigger. Early intervention programs, mentorship, and support for at-risk youth could prevent tragedies like this. We can't ignore the fact that kids are committing violent crimes, and we need to ask why. Sixth, workers need to feel empowered. Carriers should be able to refuse unsafe conditions and withdraw from danger without being punished. Management and unions need to back them up, not pressure them to finish routes no matter what. Finally, the public needs to recognize the risk. Most people don't realize how dangerous jobs like mail delivery have become. True crime stories like this one aren't just entertainment. They can build pressure for real change. Octavia Redmond loved her job. She loved her family. She loved her community. She woke up every day, put on her uniform, and went out to serve the people on her route. She did it with a smile. Her name should be remembered not only as a victim, but as a catalyst for a conversation about protecting the people who quietly keep our lives running. Cases like this raise a serious question. Would you feel safe doing this job in your city? Let me know in the comments if mail carriers or delivery drivers where you live have ever been targeted, or if this is the first time you're hearing about attacks like this. This was the story of USPS letter carrier Octavia Redmond. May she rest in peace, and may her story help protect those who are still out there on the streets.